Hello gamers, and welcome back to Solo Spelunking. And tonight I want to continue my solo RPG tutorial series where I show different ways of utilizing solo RPG tools in different play situations and talk a little bit about how you could start when you are just starting out with solo RPG. So for those of you new to this series and for those of you that watch this as the first episode, I really encourage you to watch the previous episodes in this series so that you know what this is all about. And long story short, in this series, as I said, I will not focus on building epic tales or adventure arcs or deep stories, but just show the process of solo RPGing, like how I use the tools, how you could use tools, give different suggestions in different play situations to shed some light into this mystery of solo RPG play. So this is our hero, Alrik, and he had to leave Neverwinter in a hurry because in the last episode we have determined that he's actually wanted by the Neverwinter guards because of his criminal background. And so he had to leave in a hurry, and he left Neverwinter and he headed south and came across a ruined manor which has an underground complex, obviously, because he found the stairway leading down in the midst of these ruins, and he decides to investigate. So the focus and the topic of this episode will be dungeon delving. All right, so first, like I said in my very first episode, I will be using as a dungeon generator this dungeon worksheet here, and I linked this in my first episode. I got this from itch.io from a woman named Amanda P. And she created this worksheet, and she also created a second one. And I really like to use these kind of dungeon generators when I play solo RPG. So either this one, the other one, or also I got the 4 Against Darkness print and play dungeon crawl game, and it also features a very nice D66 random dungeon generator that also works with room shapes. And I prefer these because they're quick. They're really quick. You only need one roll to see where are the passageways, where are the doors, what size and what shape is the chamber. And for me, this is one of the reasons I like to use these, and also something that enhances my solo RPG play, that I do not have to look up tables all the time. So this is what I will be using. And what I also like to do when I start a random dungeon delve, I like to create the first 2 to 3 areas in advance. And I already did this off camera, and I'm going to show it to you here. So these are the first 3 areas that I created. So I just put my entrance here, and then as you can see, that was room number 5 from this sheet, and then this one which I turned around to make it fit, and the other one was this one right here. And I ruled that all chambers that are more than 1 square wide are indeed chambers, and the other ones are corridors. And I keyed the chambers. So I generated the first 3 sections of the delve already, even though I don't see them yet. This is just so that I can work with something, so that I do not need to immediately break the flow of gaming by generating a new area. So I got something to work with here. So this is a nice compromise of, in my opinion, speed of play and ease of play, and still discovering unknown areas, because once I get past these areas, I will generate the other areas, of course, as I explore them. So this is why I like to use these kind of generators and how I start a delve. And 1 square equals 10 feet. And if I then enter combat, I will just sketch out the area on my makeshift print out document sheet battle grid that I can just write on with wet erase markers. And one other thing you should do, or you shouldn't do anything, but you could do, or that I recommend when starting a random dungeon delve, and this is something I've read numerous times in various guides, you should think of at least a theme of your dungeon. So it does not have to be an epic story, and you don't have to figure out every detail of the dungeon in advance and come up with a detailed background of every dungeon, why it is there and what purpose it has. I mean, there should be room to discover these things during play, but you should come up with a theme to add some flavor maybe to your dungeon. And this is what I did. So from the story, it is determined that this is an underground complex underneath a ruined manor, so a larger house. So I decided, so I didn't roll this up on a table, I just figured what would make sense in the story. So I decided the theme very broadly will be cellar, storage, and vermin. So basically what this means is that this is some sort of larger underground cellar and storage area for this manor. And it has fallen in ruin, and now vermin like spiders, snakes, bats, centipedes, and all kinds of stuff have crept in there. So it's not really a monster layer. So it's basically a ruined cellar area as main theme. Of course, the dice rule, so you might discover other things, but this is like the main theme. And then what I also decided beforehand, and I also recommend you do this, I decided on the size of the dungeon. And I figured, since this is an underground cellar area, this dungeon, it will have 6 areas, so 6 keyed rooms. And of course you can determine this randomly by rolling, I don't know, maybe 1d6 plus 3 or 2d6 or whatever makes sense. Or you could just let the dungeon develop, and when you are at the dead end, it's a dead end, and when all the passages are explored, or you are at the edge of the paper, you can just end the dungeon there. So this depends on personal preference, but in this case now I have decided that it will be a 6-area dungeon. All right, so, and then what I did, and you can do this real quick on the fly at the game table. According to the theme, I whipped up a quick random encounter table, just 6 entries that you roll on with 1d6, with fitting vermin monsters for like wandering monsters and such. And yeah, this is just something I did to stay within the theme. Of course, you can just ignore all this and just explore and use whatever random encounter table you have at hand. And there are plenty online, but like I said, the focus of this series also is to use a limited amount of resources and supplements and sort of customize the experience so that you're not flipping through books all the time and through supplements. All right, so this is it. So now let's talk about journaling a little bit, because this is also something I read in a comment on Reddit where a user asked, I'm not sure about this journaling thing. Like when I do a dungeon crawl, it's just I just always write I'm in a passage and the passage goes right. And so he asked, what to do with journaling in a dungeon delve. And so I answered that when I am doing this dungeon delve, I do not journal why I'm delving, because, like I said, the journaling for me is the focus to keep me fixed in the story, to keep me engaged in the story. I need something to concentrate on so that I stick in the game. And here, when I'm doing a dungeon delve, I get this focus and this sticking in the game, or the staying in the game, and this interaction from basically interacting with the map. I mean, I do not need to journal that at the end of the stairs I see a hallway with a door, because I see this on the map. I got the mental picture because I see this on the map. So I just interact with the map, and this is what keeps me in the story while dungeon delving. I do, however, write short blurbs about the areas that I discovered, and if anything special happened, like when I successfully finished a combat or discovered some clues, then I would write a short blurb in my journal to document this. And if I keep the map and I later go back, I can in my journal see what I wrote for what area, so it is consistent. But I do not see the need to document every move my hero makes in the dungeon. So this is journaling, and you will see how this works in practice. And yeah, the other thing you will see in game. So we will just start. So just as a little refresher, the last entry in the journal was, and this is in the abbreviated journaling format: leave town as fast as I can, head south, came across a ruined manor with underground complex, decide to investigate. All right, so this is what we will do. So I am at the bottom of the stairs. So let's look at my character sheet. And I got an explorer's pack. Yeah, I got an explorer's pack. So hopefully there are some torches in there. And so I will light a torch because this is dark. And I light a torch and I head towards the door. All right, and now I made a little, I put this on here, but I can't read it. It's too much of a mess, so I copy it in here. So I made a little chart to generate the content, and you will see how this works shortly when I enter this first room. But I also made a little door chart, and doors basically in my delves, they can have 3 states. They're either locked and trapped, or they're just locked, or they are open. And so I do not have any doors that are open but trapped. And the reason for that is that I like to mark the status of the door on the map with a symbol. So an arrow is a trap, and if I know a door is trapped, it's automatically locked, because it goes together. It's either locked or trapped, so I would make the arrow. If it's just locked, I will make the plus sign, and if it's open, meaning unlocked, so it's still closed, you can open it, I just make the circle. And so I need to journal this or document this in my journal. I just add a little icon to the map. And I do this as soon as I engage with a door the first time. And then when I look at the map, I know, all right, I have been at this door already and have engaged with this door because there's an icon there next to the door. And if there's no icon, I haven't been there at this door. So this is how I do it. So I approach this door, and now I just ask my door die. And it's a 3, which means it is open like in unlocked. So I just make a little circle next to the door. So now I know I have interacted with this door and it is unlocked and also not trapped. So then what I usually do when I'm delving, that if I'm in front of a door, I take a moment and listen. So this is when I would make a perception check. So this is wisdom. I'm not trained in perception. And I just make it a DC 12. Nine, and wisdom I got +1, so I fail. So I do not hear anything. That does not mean that there's nothing there, but now I need to create the contents of this chamber before I enter, so that I know basically in my GM role what to expect. And to speed up this process, I came up with the system where, a room could feature a monster, a trap, treasure, or a secret door. And I assigned different colors of dice. So monsters are red, traps are black, treasure is yellow, because like gold, and secret doors are white. And here is the interval when this is in the room, basically. So now I can just put all these dice. I put a red die, a black die, a white die, and a yellow die in my dice cup. And now with one roll, I will generate the content of this room. All right, so there's no treasure because I rolled a 3. Treasure is only 6 on d6. There's no secret door because it's a 1 on a d6. However, there is a monster because 1 and 2 on a d6 is a monster, but there's also not a trap. So there is a monster in here, but I failed my perception check, so I'm relatively unprepared. So I will just open this door and enter this chamber, encountering a monster. And like I said, I made a little 6 entry table out of the D&D basic rules. So I went to the monster stat section and just looked at some vermin stats plus kobolds, and I came up, oh, this is nice. All right, so this is nice. So 5 is a giant spider on page 136 of the basic rules, and I copied the essential stats to this little sheet. So, and now, basically, I'm in the fiction. And now I will, because in this series, I do not want to talk to you all the time, because I want you to see how I would do it when I play by myself. I will just like to explain how I do it. So I will now take this information, and this is something now I would journal, take this information and write a little blurb in my journal. And then, we will resolve the combat. Of course, first I will read to you what I journaled. Alright, so I put down 1 for like this chamber, and then I put down only monster. So this is basically some OC information that tells me I've did my exploration roll in this chamber and there's only a monster. So only monster, giant spider, open door, and are almost caught in thick webbing. Use my torch to burn it away. Suddenly movement in one corner of ceiling. A hairy giant spider lurks there and jumps at me. So this is what I journal, and from this short description I got a nice picture in my head. Maybe you've got a nice picture too. So this is actually pretty eerie. So imagine there's this thick webbing and you burn it away and it's like half cast shadows and suddenly movement, and then this large ugly spider with hairy legs. Ugh, I get the creeps. Just think of Lord of the Rings, Shelob, Frodo. This spider now sees me as prey and jumps at me. Alright, so this is what happens. So, and then I would switch. I mean, in this case, I could also, and I probably would run this as a theater of mind combat, because there will be not much movement, I figure, because of the webbing, and yeah, and because we are both melee fighters. No, not quite. The spider, according to the stats, she can shoot webbing, or it can shoot webbing. But I got a rapier, but I will do it anyways to illustrate. So now I would just copy this little room, and like I said, 1 square is 10 feet on this scale, so 5 feet here. So this is where I enter. So this would be the door, and make it like this so that you know it is open. And then I got 4 to either side. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is the chamber, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. 4. And then it goes like this. So, but there's this opening here, and also here. And according to the dungeon sheet, those are curtains. So those are not doors. I usually do them like this, and this is also like there, I think, drawn on the sheet. So this indicates that there are curtains, and there's also curtains here that I forgot, and curtains here. All right, so, and I enter. So I entered, and I almost got caught in this webbing that I burned away, and up here in this corner of the ceiling is this large giant spider. And in the interest, like I said, of quick setup times, and to show you that the barrier of entry is very low, you just need some representation to do some tactical movement. So I will just use a generic wooden pawn as the spider. So it jumps from the ceiling, and it is down here. And now this is a good opportunity to see also how my beefing up my character for solo play with the damage conversion and the 2 turns per combat rounds works, because a giant spider, I think, is a challenge level 1, if I was not mistaken, which means it is an adequate challenge for a party of 4 first level adventurers. So I am 1 first level adventurer, but I do have 2 turns, and I will reduce the incoming damage. For those of you new, this is a principle that I got from the Solo Heroes supplement by Kevin Crawford, which you can download for free. There's also a supplement, but this is not free, and it is very good. It is called Legendary Characters, especially for 5e. But I use the principles of Solo Heroes for my character, and they basically state that incoming damage is reduced and outgoing damage is enhanced to beef up a solo character for the leg of the group. But I got into this in my other episodes, so this is just a short reminder. So we will roll initiative, and my initiative is predetermined. I have 2 turns at initiative count 14 and 11. So now we just roll for the spider and slot it in. So the spider, she's got, or it, I'm because of this Shelob, and she was female, at least according to Gollum. I always go with she, but of course it's an it. So it will be me. So Alrik. Then Alrik again. And then the spider. So this is the initiative order. And the spider, it's got 26 hit points, AC 14, attacks with +5, and nasty poison. So I gotta make a poison save once I'm hit for half damage, or I take 2d8. But I will take damage either way, even though if I make the save. So, but thank God I got 2 turns before the spider will attack. So I got 12 hit points. So I will just move up 1, 2, and attack with my rapier using my dueling feature. So 1d8 +5 will be the damage. I attack with +5 versus AC 14. All right, so 6 +5 is, of course, 11. So I fail. Would have dealt 8 +5 damage, but I'm usually unlucky when I play solo. So, of course, I miss. And now my second turn in this combat round. Oh, but I don't want to complain. It's a critical hit, 20. So I get to roll the die again. So this is 5 plus another d8. +1 is 6, and my 5, that is 11. So the spider, it got 26 minus 10 is 16 minus 1, so it's got 15 HP left. But now the spider attacks, and it tries to bite me with its poisonous fangs or hit me with its sting. So it attacks with +5. My AC is 15, and it would deal 1d8 +3 damage. Oh no, it's a critical hit. All right, so it's also a critical hit. So this is 5 plus 7. Oh, that's 12 plus 3. That is 15. So 15 points of damage. Usually I would be dead, but this is where the damage conversion comes in. So I got this table here. Basically, I divide incoming damage by 5. So, but still 15 damage is 3. I lose 3 hit points. So I go from 12 to 9 hit points. So I'm at 9 hit points. However, now I need to make a DC 11 con save, and thankfully I am proficient with con saves as a fighter, so I got +4 and I need a DC 11. I make it. I rolled an 18. However, I still take damage because it's 2d8 and I take half damage. Half damage on a successful save. Oh, come on, you gotta be kidding me. All right, so this is 8 plus 7. That is that's 15 divided by 2 is 7.5, which I round down to 7. And 7 is converted by my table, but still to 2. So now I am at 7 hit points. All right, now I am at 7 hit points, but it is my turn again, and I get 2 turns. The spider is at 15 hit points. So let's do this. First turn, I attack. Yes, I hit 13. It's got an AC of 14. And I deal 8 points of damage. 3 plus 5, 8 points. So the spider's at 7 hit points. And now my second turn. $15. Oh yes, I hit for 11. 6 plus 5. All right, so I kill it. But I think that was not too bad. I mean, it didn't feel overly overpowered. We each had a crit, so but I'm at 7 from 12 hit points. So in this fight, I lost almost half my hit points, and this was a challenge rating 1 monster, I guess. So I'm pretty happy with how this went, and I still got my second wind feature that I will not use. It's a bonus action, and it regenerates 1d10 plus level hit points, and then I have to finish a short or long rest to use it again. All right, so that was this encounter. And then what I usually do, where's my here? Of course, in every good dungeon delve, you need a wandering monster chance. The wandering monster chance is 1 on a d6. And I usually do not roll like in certain intervals, like in old school delving, you roll like once a turn for wandering monsters or such. What I do is I make it depend on what I did in the fiction. So when I was loud, made a lot of noise, like trying to break down a door, or maybe if I what I do if I try to pick a lock and I fail, I usually can try again, but after every failure I would roll a wandering monster check to see if maybe because I'm lingering too long that there's a wandering monster appearing, to add some tension to this lock picking thing, so that it's not like, all right, so you don't open the door, it's you can turn around unless you got some form of magical means, so you can try again, but after every fail I roll for a wandering monster. Or sure, you can take your crowbar and bash down the door, but then I roll for a wandering monster. So this is how I will do this. So yeah, so this fight, yeah, it was, yeah, maybe not that loud, because it's basically, it was only like 2 combat rounds. So in the fiction 12 seconds, and this spider, she didn't make a lot of noise, so I will not do it in this case. But if it would be a combat maybe like against 3 or 4 kobolds with metal clashing against each other, I would do a wandering monster roll. So this is how I handle these wandering monster rolls. All right, so yeah, we got the first encounter done, and we can switch back to our dungeon map. So this is what we see, and now what we can do now, I will roll on my random idea generator to get an idea of what the purpose of this chamber is. Because up until now I haven't really had time to look at it. We just had to fight the spider, and now as the spider is dead, I take a look around this area. And this is where my random idea generator comes in. So also this is, as I described in this first series here, it's just 3 columns and 20 lines with random words, and I need another d20, and I will just roll 3d20 to get 3 words, and hopefully this sparks my imagination in the context of the story to come up with something that might give me an idea. So it'll be yellow, green, blue, yellow, green, or orange, green, blue, orange, green, blue, 19, 16, 1. So 19 is retrieve, 16 a ship, and 1 shield. All right, retrieve a ship, shield. And this is something that might take a while to get used to. You do not need to take these words literally. You can also take the larger meaning. So a shield is a shield, but it could also something to protect something against something, or a ship could also mean like a voyage, journey, far distances. So you gotta you gotta let your mind work a little. And if you can't come up with anything, just roll again. Don't think about it too long. So yeah, the first thing that came into my mind was shield, retrieved, shield, something to be retrieved, so some sort of protective measure. So yeah, let's just say that that on this wall here, that there is yeah, a massive table with a big chest on it, and in this chest there's something that might be of value or anything, so we don't know it yet. So just I put down a small blurb, then I read it to you, and then you'll see. All right, so I put down, after fight, take look around, table at northern wall, oak, sturdy looking chest on top of it. All right, so this is what is there, and I forgot to put, so this is north, this up here, south, east, west. So yeah, so this is now something I can interact with, and of course, since I'm here to explore, I am curious. So now I will interact with the chest. And now, because I determined that this shields something to be retrieved, so it protects something valuable, I figure, of course, that the chest is locked. And not only is it locked, it's probably also a very difficult lock, and it might even be trapped. So this is for me what makes the most sense in the fiction, and this is yeah, now you can see how I interact with these things, how I interpret maybe these random words sometimes, so so that it makes sense in the fiction. So of course it looks sturdy, it's a sturdy chest, and now I will just, it will be of course a difficult lock, that much is clear, but now I will see if it is also trapped. And I'll ask the trusty almighty D6 oracle, and because I think it is likely that it's trapped, I will roll 2 oracle die and use the higher result. All right, so no event, because this is the event die and it does not show a 1, and the higher result is 5, which is yes. So it is locked with a difficult lock and also trapped. So now I look at it, and see, this is also like when you're playing with a GM, you often read, especially when it comes to the principles of old school gaming, that you shouldn't rely too much on perception check, but just talk with your GM and describe to the GM how you're looking and searching for things. And if there's something there to be discovered, you will discover it. However, in solo RPG, I do not really talk to the GM because I'm both, and I always need some random variable so that I'm not only telling a story. And you probably heard this expression from me a couple of times already. Always give yourself a chance to fail. So for me, part of the gaming experience when playing solo is, of course, using the rule set and using the skills of the character. This is why I'm doing this. So I will, of course, have to make a perception check. So, of course, I look at the chest and I examine it as good as I can with my torchlight. But like I said, I got a criminal background, so I'm somewhat familiar with locks and maybe also traps. And I will see if I find this trap. And I say it's a DC 15. And I make a perception check. I do not have perception, so it is wisdom. 12 plus 1 is 13. No, I do not discover the trap. It all looks in order. So, of course, I'm curious. So I get out my thieves' tools that I'm proficient with because of my criminal background from my belt and set to open the lock. And at this moment, the trap triggers. And for me, this is just something that came into my mind. It is some sort of magical, shocking grasp trap. So the moment I touch the metal or set to manipulate the lock, an arcane electrical discharge goes through my body, dealing 1d8 points of damage. That's 3, which is converted to 1. So I'm at 6 hit points, but now the trap is disarmed. It's a one-use trap, and I can pick the lock, which I said is difficult, so it is a DC 20 lock. And I'm using my Thieves' Tools proficiency and my dexterity, so I roll +5. It is a DC 20 lock. 15! Yes, I make it! DC 20. Alright, so I open this chest. And let's see what is inside. So now, when I made the roll for the room, I determined that there's no treasure in this room, if you remember. Now, the fiction might yield a different result, but this is totally fine. First of all, I do not know at this moment if it's really material treasure. Maybe it's something else, maybe some incriminating letter or whatever, not really some material wealth for me in the moment. And even though this is an indication, but if from Oracle rolls something develops, and if you just do not want to just go room by room or write nothing, and it is perfectly fine. So let's find out what is in this box. And I will just use my random idea generator again. And I put down here so that I can easily remember orange, green, blue, so that I know which die is which column. And I just roll 3 again and see what is happening. So orange, green, blue. Orange is 13, 11, and 10. So let's look at the oracle. 13, all right, orc, 11, loaf of bread, and 10, vial of poison. All right, a loaf of bread, vial of poison. Okay. All right, so, all right, I know what. So now, a vial of poison, a loaf of bread. So what I will disregard the org. It doesn't make sense for me now in the fiction, but that's also perfectly fine. But the loaf of bread and the vial of poison, I take it literally that there's a loaf of poisoned bread in there, which is for whatever reason not rotten or anything, and this is something that whoever lived might have used or wanted to use, maybe to poison some people when they're at the mansion. But this is all OOC knowledge. My character, he doesn't know this yet, and hopefully he does not want to find out. So now I need to make a note. So I just imagine the scene and I put it in my blurb. So again, if I would play by myself, all this explaining, you can just disregard this. It would be a very quiet experience. I would look at the words, I come up with a meaning and put it in my journal. But I just want to show to you how this for me works. So how this process of interpreting and how I sometimes come to conclusions, and it doesn't always have to be perfect. It's your game, and don't think too far ahead of does this actually make sense? Is this logical? Can this really be? Doesn't matter. It's your game, and if it's interesting, and I think if you like spin the larger picture and you have, okay, there's a manor now which is now in ruins, but maybe a noble lived there, maybe there were some dealings, just think Game of Thrones, with other noble families, and maybe he prepared like a get together and tried to, like the Red Wedding, wanted to use this to get rid of his competitors, and for this occasion he had this poisoned magical loaf of bread locked away secure for this main event that obviously has not happened. Maybe it did, I don't know. So it is not that far off. It makes, at least for an interesting background, but it doesn't really always have to make sense immediately all the time. So don't overthink it. So now I will just put down this short blurb and and then continue. All right, so I put down trap chest, exclamation mark. Discharge burns my hand, but I open the lock. Loaf of bread inside. Strange. Why go through all this trouble for bread? Question mark. Take it, examine later. All right, so this is why I have an indication also in the fiction as a character that there might be something odd with this bread, because why would you put a bread in a chest, and this chest is also trapped with a magical trap, so this is indeed strange. So I take it, we'll examine it later and just continue. So now we're basically back in delving mode, and so now I gotta pick one of these passageways. So, and then if I am in a situation like this where I have basically 4 choices and I have no indication of like one way is better than the other. Let's just say these were like not curtains but doors. I would just roll 1d4 in this case and pick randomly. But in this case now, we established that they're just curtains. So I can take a quick glance behind every curtain because this is not difficult. I mean, it's not so and when I do this, I will quickly discover that these are dead ends and these lead further into the complex. So now I got basically 2 choices. Of course, you could examine these dead ends to see if there might be dead ends, and then you could roll for it. But in the fiction now, I will first go with what is obvious. And obvious is that I got 2 choices to continue further into the complex. So in this case, I will just decide randomly. Because also from where I stand, both hallways are of the same length and they both have a door, and from where I'm standing I will probably not hear anything, so I will just roll a d6, 1 2 3 4 5 6. So this is how I will decide how to proceed. And this is also what I do when I play published adventures, and there's a dungeon map, of course, that I also decide randomly. But there's another thing I do, but I will go into this in a different video when I talk a little bit about how you could play published adventures, but not today. So I will just roll 1 2 3 4 5 6 4 5 6. So I decide to go this way. So I head down this passageway and again stop at this door. And now again I roll my door die, because now I interact with this door. 4. 4 means it is again open, an open door. So open in not locked, but of course closed. So I put this little icon next to this door, and I will not do this now because this would take too long for this tutorial, but usually when I play by myself, I have established like a procedure. So basically, like a delving procedure, I would listen at every door before I open the door, then I would determine the content like I showed you, and then I would enter and interact with whatever content is there. I will not do this now because of the nature of the series, so that we can get a little bit further along. So I will just determine what is in here in this section. Even though this is not a room, because it's only like a corridor, I will still roll my content dice, because of course there could be a secret door maybe here, maybe some treasure, maybe treasure on a dead body of an unlucky adventurer. So there's still, of course, the possibility that there's something to explore. And of course also a monster. So I will use my red die again, the white die, the yellow die, and the black die again. And if you don't have these dice in different colors, you can of course use an electronic die roller, or you can also use one die and roll it 4 times. This is just to speed up things, to make a content roll. Just one mechanic that you could use to speed up a delve. Alright, so 1 on the black die, it's a trap. 1, it's also on a secret door, a monster, and no treasure. Alright, so this is trap, secret door, monster. That is interesting. So, now secret door, I will just determine that the secret door, because it makes the most sense, is on one of these hallways, and it doesn't really matter which. So I put it like this, and the secret doors are with an S inside. All right, so that's okay. So that's the secret door. Then it'll be a trapped hallway, and it would make the most sense that the trap is here at this section where it is smallest, or where you have to pass through. And then for the monster we will see. So what is in here, or what's here. So again, roll on my custom tailored D6 table, custom tailored to vermin. 3 is a giant lizard. All right, so this is also pretty nice. Okay, so let's just say a giant lizard has taken residence here. Maybe there are some larger cracks in the wall where it came in. Doesn't really matter. Like I said, don't overthink it. And it has made its nest in one of these hallways. Put an N here for nest. And feels threatened by my presence. All right, so I will just proceed, because the giant lizard usually does not make a lot of noise, and it hasn't seen me yet, so it's not like hissing or anything. So I will just proceed. All right, and now, because I mean, I know that there's a trap here, but I haven't really established that my character always, like that I'm the professional dungeon delver who always looks for traps. So I will just use a passive perception, my passive perception value, which is 10 plus my wisdom modifier, which is 11. So this is probably not high enough to detect this trap. However, something that I also like to do sometimes is I like to determine DCs randomly and within a certain interval. So if I like, for example, in this case, I could just to add a little bit of a variable, I can, or this is what I will do, I will say, all right, the DC to discover this trap is 10 plus 1d8. So anywhere from 11 to 18. So it's basically like a reverse check, you know. I'm using my passive perception value, but I do not know yet the DC. And if I'm very lucky, maybe the DC is 11, and then I might catch the trap. But it's 14. I rolled a 4. So my passive perception is not enough. So yeah, I have no reason to suspect anything. Just take a quick look at into these hallways here. Then I continue, and then I will see. And now the question is, what kind of trap could this be? And of course you could always roll for it, but I'm more of the, I go by what would make sense. So it's either because it's in this middle of, it might be a pit trap because you got to go through there, and then, or some pressure plate where there's some sort of poison dart trap mounted here inside the door, where a projectile basically shoots at you. And so I will say that those are the two options, and I will just roll again with 1d6, and 1 to 3 will be a pit trap, and 4 to 6 will be the other trap. And it's a pit trap. 1 to 3 pit trap. All right, so of course this also makes sense. So this is another thing that I would like to show to you. You don't need really a random table for everything. I mean, to be honest, what is a trap? A trap is a treacherous device that has the purpose of draining resources. Speaking hit points, because hit points are resources. And what shape it takes is flavor, maybe, when it comes to how to avoid it, how to disarm it. And that's, of course, not that unimportant, but in this dungeon environment where the amount of or the possible traps, the options are limited, unless it is like maybe a wizard tower where everything could be highly arcane, it doesn't really matter. You don't need a table with 10 different traps. Just come up with 1 or 2 different things and then just roll. So it is a pit trap. So I head towards this door and the pit trap opens, and now I haven't looked up the mechanics for a pit trap, but I will allow myself a dexterity saving throw to try to catch the ledge before I fall down. So but it's not easy. It's a DC 15 saving throw and I'm not proficient, so I just use my dexterity. Oh, 19! Haha! Alright, so underneath, the floor gives way underneath, and immediately I quickly react and try to jump back, but too late. But I'm able to catch this ledge with one hand, but at this side of the hallway. So I do not take any damage from the trap. I pull myself out, but now I got this 10 feet hole here that that goes down. So I need to jump across. All right, but that shouldn't be too difficult. I got athletics +4, so I will just jump across it. I rolled a natural 20, so easily I leap across this, and and once I am here, I am then attacked by this giant lizard because it feels threatened, and and it jumps at me. So I will do this combat. And I got this giant lizard stats also from the basic rules. It's on page 134. So it's got an AC 12, 19 hit points, and attacks with +4. So no poison there, but also not a slouch. I don't have the challenge rating in my head right now. So I will just roll its initiative. I don't know if it's there was a dex score listed, but I didn't put it down. I just give it a +1 initiative. So it's a 14. All right, so it's a 14. So I got 14 too, but my modifier is higher, +3. So it will be Alrik, which is me. Then the lizard, and then my second turn, Alrik, in this, and then the initiative cycle is over, and then it starts again. So, but I am at 6 hit points. So, in this case, I will run this as a theater of mind combat, because it's basically like a hallway. There's a hole here, so I can't really move. We are both melee, so it will be just standing next to each other, rolling dice. So I can just use this or resolve this in a theater of mind combat. So this is what I will do. So, but I do get the first turn because of my higher modifier, and I will attack with my rapier. And I hit 16 natural, and 6 + 5 is 11. So 19 minus 11, so it's at 8 hit points. All right, but now the lizard, and because it's a lizard, I'm using green dice. So it snaps at me with its needle-sharp teeth. It misses, rolls a 2. So now me again. Second turn this combat round. At initiative count 11, and I also roll a 2. I miss, but then next combat round I'm at initiative count 14, attack again, Oh, natural 20 and 8 points of damage. Roll this again. 8, that's 11 plus 5, so that's it. So, yeah, I'm lucky. The creature didn't hit me, so that was a short fight. And now I do not have a reason in the fiction to examine this further, because this looks for me just like some sort of corridor area. I don't know. So I will not head towards here and look for the secret door. If you wanted to do this, because then I would suggest again either rolling some sort of check or rolling an oracle roll if there's something happening that might give you an indication that there is a secret door there. So this is always, again, the principle of giving yourself a chance to fail. And once you gave yourself a chance to fail, but you didn't fail, you have a reason to look for this secret door. Unless you say, all right, I'm playing a character who always looks for secret doors, who's like an expert dungeon delver, and dead ends are always suspicious, then this is fine. But for me, in my fiction, in my view of my character, I have not determined that this is the case. So I will just continue. All right, but I'm already again over an hour, so I will end this session here. And I just want to summarize real quick. Yeah, so you know now why I like to use these kind of generators, because they're quick and don't require a lot of rolling. Then don't overthink it. You don't have to think through all the possible interpretations that might come to mind. Just be quick about it and keep the story flowing. Keep journaling to a minimum when you're delving, because you got the map to interact with, and stick to key events basically. Yeah, one possibility is using random DCs, and I roll for wandering monsters when there's when there was noise or anything happening that takes time. So I usually use it when I pick locks or try to pick doors or open doors as some sort of tracker, counter, doom track, whatever, to make it more interesting when I try to pick locks. Yeah, but I will continue this in the next episode, because it's 6 areas, and I want to at least get through these areas to show you some more of the process. But I still hope that you got something out of this episode. And as always, thanks for watching, and I would really like for you to subscribe, because I would like to see this channel grow further in 2024. And I hope you had fun, so stay safe and stay healthy, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.